want to make sure we maximize the most of everyone's time today. It is 11 o'clock, and you know what they say in the bold room, it's 11 o'clock. We had an appointment at 11 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. The
Absolutely.
intention of our call today is to simply talk about what's going on in the market. I know I coach market centers across the country, and the one theme that I hear over and over and over is we have less listings than we've ever had before, and our agents are losing multiple offers because there are so many people who are in the same competitive nature. So why don't we just go ahead and jump straight into the first topic? We're going to cover two topics today. Number one, how to win multiple offers, and number two, how to pick up listings in a low inventory market. So we're going to spend about 15 minutes on each one of those. We're going to go rapid fire. We're going to talk about the best practices. John, I'm glad you could make it. So Christina, let's start with you. When it comes to best practices for winning multiple offer situations, what do you recommend?
So a little preface, I have 41 agents on our team, and our team does about 500 transactions a year. However, I've been in the distress side of the business for 10 plus years. So what I would tell you is when multiple offers weren't even a thing, I was dealing with multiple offers. So how I always recommend a multiple offers approach is almost like you're dealing with a bank-owned asset. And what that looks like is the buyer needs to put their highest price, whatever they would pay for that property, the highest escrow. If they can put the entire thing in escrow, if they're cash, I've had buyers put 200,000 in escrow. Quickest inspection period and quickest close. Let the seller counter you at a closing date that gives them more time if needed. But there's so much cash in the market right now. If you're going to offer 200,000 for a property and you're going to close, you can close in 3 days, do a 200,000 with 200,000 down and a 3-day inspection and a 3-day close, and let that seller counter those terms, and that's going to make you stronger. But that's just a strategy I would do on cash offers.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any questions around that, I can share. But that I've seen people come in and put offers like that, or I've represented offers like that, and they could even be a little less than the highest, and the seller will accept those offers.
Got it. So when it comes to the finance side of things, what are you seeing as some best practices for you?
Okay, so first and foremost, cash and finance, the listing agent or the buyer's agents, they need to follow instructions. Believe it or not, that loses more offers for agents for not following instructions. One of my favorite ones is you need to get approved with our preferred mortgage lender. You can't be required to use them, but a seller can require approval. When an agent doesn't follow that one step, I've had more people lose deals for their clients. Oh, well, they're approved already. It doesn't matter. You need to follow this step. Or submitting an offer via a certain email address. Believe it or not, agents are their own worst enemy. There'll be an email address or a platform they have to submit it to, REO and not REO, and they're sending it to the wrong email address. So follow instructions first and foremost. Now, financing. You need to get the finance side of the transaction. If you're working with a buyer that is getting a loan, that lender needs to do as much as they can on the front end. Pre-approvals are worth about as good as the paper they're written on. But if you get that person fully credit approved as much as possible, and you can lower your finance contingency deadline on the contract, that's going to help you be as solid as possible. So that's just one thing that I've seen a huge getting that appraisal done within that inspection time frame, is not an issue if that buyer is credit approved through that lender.
Yeah, and so what I also hear you saying is make sure that you know who you're working with for the lender side of things. It's not just a hey, I found it on Quicken Loans kind of deal right now. The people that you have truly established relationships with and are going to take the time to spend time on the front end qualifying, not pre-qualifying, but actually qualifying them, is going to save you heartache in the long run.
It will, because you know what? You know what's magical when you can do a finance offer with no finance contingencies?
Yes.
That'll set you apart. So the more a good solid VA buyer that's putting, that has awesome credit, that, reliable income in many ways, there's no reason you need to do a finance contingency, or you do it up until that inspection period ends. So the seller knows that all of those contingencies are expired.
Awesome. All right, John, you've got, tell me a little bit about yourself first. I know you've got experience on the residential sales side of things and on the property management side of things as well.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I've been in the industry around 18 years and had the honor of actually being a market center team leader. And so I consider that to be living in dog years, right? With all the different things there.
Yeah.
But the only reason I bring that up is it's afforded me the opportunity to have conversations with over 3,000 local and national agents. And so, I call myself a recovering entrepreneur because before that experience, I would fall into doing it the fun, creative way. And I realized that it cost me more money every time I did that. It took me more time to get to where I wanted to go, and it created more stress. And so it just took me 3,000 conversations to realize that maybe systems and models work.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I'm
There you
a
go.
learner. But here's something.
Hey, you know what? Gary's been teaching the same thing from stage for like 35 years now.
Right.
And
right.
there are still people who are learning it. So there you go.
Absolutely. I think we all are, right? I mean, I think Christina really gave a great comprehensive approach to some of the tactical things that we can do to position our buyers to win in today's market. What I'm recognizing right now with the coaching roster that we're working with is that we might not be qualifying the buyers the way we need to, right? And if you think about it, in 2008, 9, in that area, the confrontations were with the sellers. Right? It was a price war and a beauty contest. You had to be number one in both. If you're not willing to go ahead and do that, then this might not be the right market for you. Are we having a similar conversation like that with our buyers?
So what does that conversation need to look like, John?
I'm glad you asked. Right. So the first thing here, let's reattach them to their motive. Right? Hey, Scott, I got to tell you, remind me again, I know we talked about it, but what's the reason for the season? What's got you even making considering a move in today's market?
Yeah.
Right. You share with me whatever it is. And my immediate response is that's exciting. Who else is excited in the house about that move? Because I want to know, does their environment support their goals? Right? Because if it doesn't, there's a very low probability they're going to be competitive in today's market.
Especially if it's a husband and wife, and they have two completely different expectations, or partners, or whatever it is, completely different expectations. You're headed for a nightmare.
Yeah, immediately. So that's one thing I want to expose there. Second thing that I'm recognizing here is we're in a radically different market today than we were in March of 2020, right? And a specific example I can share with you here is that in a Midwest county that I'm very familiar with, in March of 2020 to December of 2020, we saw a 14.6% appreciation in the entire county, right? In perspective, we typically have a 4% increase of appreciation. And it's a textbook definition of actually price gouging. Mm-hmm. So we have legal price gouging that's going on in a Midwest county, right? I didn't talk about East Coast, West Coast, right? So now the reason I think that that's important though, Scott, if they're physically looking at properties today, when do you think that they started swiping through properties?
Quite some time ago.
Yeah.
6 months ago, right?
Yeah.
So they've set their expectations there, and then you recognize that now that's not the case.
Yeah.
And then the thing I want to complement that with is I want to know what's the buyer activity going to look like. And I can get insights from that from days on market, sale price to list price, different things like that. But it's important to go ahead and present that information and then ask. That's the biggest thing I'm noticing right now. We've got buyer's agents that are looking to be the savior, right? And the reality is we're injecting our opinions when they're not needed and creating more liability legally for us too, right? And so it's just asking, gosh, here's the environment. When it's our turn to go ahead and write an offer, what does that mean for us?
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're going to have to be strong. And then that's when I go through the series of things that Christina outlined. These are all the things that people are conceding to win in today's market. Are you open to that? Right?
Yeah.
Now, the question that I would drive it home with is, if the market doesn't supply a home that checks all the boxes for you, what options would you explore? And if I'm looking for a motivated buyer, there's only one answer I'm looking for.
And what's that?
Some variation of I'll adjust my criteria. Anybody else? Those are the contenders. Anybody else? They're a pretender.
I love
Right.
that. I love
So we've
that,
got to
John.
be able to consult them too on
Yeah.
what to do.
So it's not just the work that the lenders need to do on the front end, it's the work that we as the agents on the front end with the buyers need to be doing right now as well, to make sure that they're truly motivated to make it happen and that they're willing to jump into a market that we really don't know what 3 weeks from now is going to look like.
Yeah.
In terms of prices going up. We're not seeing them going down anywhere at all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a big deal.
they need to also respect people's fear level with COVID. And, there are more sellers going on the market now that canceled in March and April. Or they're selling to people like Opendoor and OfferPad because of the fear of bringing somebody in their home. So if us as agents respect that fear and we provide solutions, like right now, a big thing is offering the seller in your offer a sale leaseback, giving them time to move from the home, because right now with millions of forbearance agreements and millions more happening, they have to satisfy that forbearance agreement to move to their next home. So if they can't pay it off, that sale has to close, and then they need a month or two to find that next home.
Mhm.
So on a finance offer or cash, without the seller asking, offering them the ability for 30 or 60-day sale leasebacks, because it's allowed on finance deals, that will also help you get transactions.
Yeah. So I want to go back to one question really quick before we pivot to the next topic. What are the questions right now that we as agents should be asking the lenders who our buyers already have if they're bringing a lender to the table?
When's the last time the credit was approved? Have you physically verified the employment? Because right now with people being furloughed or unemployed, have you factored in unemployment? Does the borrower have PPP? Was that factored in the approval or not? So there's, it's asking them intelligent questions, not just waiting for the lender to say, yep, buyer's good to go. Oh, okay, did you pull their credit? Are they paying their rent right now? You know how many people aren't paying their rent right now?
Yeah.
Are they getting unemployment? There are things that have to be asked, because we're having more sales that fall through on listings a week or two in, or even the day or few before it closes, and buyers are losing their escrows because their buyer's agent and the lender didn't properly have them qualified. So right now there's a lot of variables. And I think on the listing side, we need to protect our sellers and ask those questions too.
John?
So Scott, I think it's a great question to be asking, and I care about the confidence level that the lender has. So I'm going to ask a question of, on a scale of 1 to 10, Scott, 10 being this is absolute no way, absolute lock, this thing is going to go ahead and close. 1 being this thing doesn't have a snowball's chance. Where would you put it? Right. And I got to tell you, if they tell me a 10, I'm suspect. Right. Because I don't know any certainties in this world. Right.
Yeah.
If they're going to say a 9, then my follow-up is going to be, would you be willing to convey that to the listing agent as well? And I want them to physically deliver that information.
That's a good point, because there's a lot of lenders out there, just like there's agents out there too, who are overly confident in certain things. Yep. And coming with a realistic perspective in these situations can be great. And to the point that you made, Christina, about seeing things falling out, that's one of the things that I'm seeing across the country right now is with buyers who are getting into those contracts and winning those offers. Some of them aren't fully committed, to your point, John, and asking themselves the question, do I really want to pay this for this house?
Yep.
And And I believe that one of the things that the Biden administration has proposed, and it will probably end up happening at some point in time, is a new homeowner credit, and what they're proposing is $15,000. Now, can you imagine pushing that into the market right this second as well, when we've already got historically low inventory? What are they going to buy? So that's one of the things to consider. All right, now let's go ahead. Anything else that you want to wrap up on that first portion of it, for winning multiple offers?
No.
Okay.
I think a lot of people are already doing this, but I think, and Christina touched on it with the presentation. I think that that's absolutely imperative, right? When you're talking about the listing agent, a simple question there: how can I write this offer so your seller accepts it? The lease back, I think, is an incredible one. And I'm not going to know to write that in unless that's a conversation I'm having with the listing agent up front. The other thing I would do too is that if you've got a sterling reputation in the market, leverage it. Vouch for the buyer, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing too, let's look for ways that we can get the seller to be sympathetic to our buyers, right? I think now we're actually past a letter and a photo. Now it's a video, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're casting, we're sharing, we're being vulnerable, because when we're vulnerable, we're relatable. Right. And then we're going to cast a vision for where we could see this house going and how it would impact our world. And we also want to stroke their ego too, the sellers, and let them know that they appreciate the pride of ownership that they've displayed.
Yeah.
And those would be the only things that I would maybe add to that.
I love the letters. I just make sure to always be careful that doesn't violate any fair housing or anything.
Right.
To that.
Great point.
So, I think the letters are great. I just think the agents need to definitely, connect with their broker, because I love the letters, but again, I think so business related. It's like, okay, what's best for my seller, and what's going to get my seller to that next level. So I agree with you. I would just make sure the agents protect on the fair housing. And then if your state allows it, escalation clauses are really great.
Yeah. And to your point about the letters, we're in a very litigious environment as a nation. We have been for years and years and years. And while the intention may never be to violate a fair housing law, the perception on the other side is their reality. So yes, I would add to that, talk to your broker in your market center before you commit to making that part of your thing, and find out what their perspective is on that. Okay, so now let's jump into the next part, everybody's favorite thing, taking listings. What is the best way to take listings right now in a historically low inventory market? John, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, this is giving me a chance to be on the soapbox a little bit. I believe that the market that we're in today has the potential to change the way we look at a buyer's agent role in perpetuity.
Yeah.
And if you look at the National Association of Realtors, the research shows that the number one thing that they want from a buyer's agent is for them to help find the house, right? And let's have an honest conversation. Where are the buyers currently finding their properties?
It rhymes with willow a lot of times.
Right. All of a sudden, our current value proposition, in perception wise, is getting diminished, right? And I believe that this is an opportunity for us to really step in and up our game and deliver incredible value as a buyer's agent. And to me, it's a matter of identifying who those contenders are. And those contenders that we've identified, we're going to match their motivation, and we're going to leverage their appetite to go ahead and find additional properties, candidates for them. And we know that only 8 or 9% of the time it's going to be the right fit for them. So there's a good chance that we're going to be able to get listings there too. And I think there's a laundry list of things that we can do to go ahead and create that inventory, that shadow inventory.
Yeah. Christina?
Well, I'm a proponent of off market. I remember being in a mastermind with Gary, probably 2 years ago. And he said those that create the opportunities control the market.
Yep.
So, this is actually just on my desk because my girl's coming to pick it up. We've got 600 letters going out to absentee owners in state and out of state. So there's a lot of data. There's a lot of stuff that agents don't follow. you can easily put a seller and a buyer together and make a 4% commission. So I think agents need to walk in with their eyes wide open. You know, there's gosh, I'm actually working on an out of box prospecting class. You know, there are thousands of ways you can find opportunity, from old expireds to, you know, absentee owners, to notice of defaults, to, you know, for sale by renter. You know, the one of my favorites right now is for rent by owners. So agents just need to, you know, pick up the phone. But, you know, right now the biggest one is this: text everyone in your phone, just checking on them. We use an app called Hit 'em Up. Just, hey, I'm just checking to see how you're doing. And then follow it up next week with a video. Hey, I know that it's a tough time right now in the world. If you know anybody that is in forbearance or going through eviction, let me know so I can help you provide solutions to them. So we need to really just go after the inventory and be open-minded. And again, there's hundreds of things that I teach to do that. But one of my favorite is, you know, is through the neighborhood too, is, you know, we had 12 offers on this house. What does this mean to you? The market's hot. If you're on the fence about selling your home, now is the time. There are active buyers looking to move into your neighborhood. Let us give you the current value of your home today. Call for a complimentary virtual 30-minute consultation, and you can pay a runner or send a yellow letter or a letter to the whole neighborhood. But pull the old expireds and send these to Target. You don't have to send them to everybody. So anyway, I'm just a big on out of the box prospecting. We don't have to buy leads. We can find the opportunity.
Yeah, Christina and John, a couple of thoughts that I have on this. Number one, I believe that there's a gold mine out there that's just sitting there and waiting. And our mindset around that needs to be important. So let me ask you this: when do most people call expireds?
After what have you.
Early in the morning.
They call them the morning after they expire. It goes in at 12 o'clock or 12 a.m. in the MLS. It's expired. They want to be the first person to call those people. Well, guess what? You and 635 other people are calling those people. In 2020, I believe that there's a gold mine sitting out there just waiting for us to reach out to. It's the people who had unrealistic expectations in December, January, February, and the beginning of March for what they could sell their home for, right? And now those unrealistic expectations that they had before could be exactly what they could sell their home for today, if not more. And they may just not realize how hot the market is. And guess what? Everyone else is focusing on what's expiring right now. They're not going back and focusing on what happened almost a year ago.
Yeah, old expireds are magical, but you know, just a thing to talk on that, Scott. We have a full-time runner. Every expired get that is owner occupied gets something from us on the door. So that, you know, and I call it ding dong ditch. You don't need to knock. You just put something on the door in a coupon bag, nice and colorful. But you know, those 100 calls that come into that expired and they're working, or, you know, they're not answering that phone, or their voicemail fills up. How many agents do you think are putting something on their door when they get home from work? And if they have 50 phone calls on their phone, and then they have a bright colored something on their door, who do you think they're going to call first?
They're going to return the phone call for the person who actually drove to the house, got out of the car, walked up to the door, and left something there.
So if you go above and beyond to connect with that seller in person, and you give them something, I don't know about you. We do both. We do calls. We do all these different combinations.
Yeah.
However, I'm a proponent. To me, that's the first thing that a team should do as they're growing, is understand data sources and get a runner. Or, you know, I have agents that they send 10 door hangers, 10 letters every day. So it's just getting consistent.
Yeah, so that number one right there is the expired side of things, that I believe that there's a huge opportunity for those people who listed then. And then there's this other group of people that are in there as well. These are the March, April, May, and some of June people who were thinking, what is the market going to do? I'm scared. I think the best thing to do is to just take it off the market. Now, you and I all know that the reality is agents don't follow up the way that they should. Even some of those people who had that listing at one point in time may have just given up and said, you know, they're not ready to do this. I'm going to move on. So looking at those withdrawals as well, it can be a big opportunity.
You know, Scott, I believe that the early adopters of exactly what we're talking about, the message I'm receiving is that in order for us to go ahead and find the property for our buyers today, the current vending machine might be broken, the MLS, and we might have to go to the second vending machine being the non-MLS. And
Visually, those candy bars are just stacking up on top of each other. We just got to shake it a little bit.
Right. And I think that those that are intentional right now, there's an opportunity to have a game set match. Right. And I agree with what Christina was saying is that when you've got more ownership of the market, you got more control. And what's holding us back from creating our own list of make me move by our sellers?
Yeah. Going to the whole Tony DeSello thing that they originally taught in Bold. If you didn't have any fouls and you showed up early in the morning, they gave you the, hey, Tony just sold this, or Tony's got buyers looking for this right now. That should be our mantra. That should be what we're posting everywhere in as many places as we can. I don't care if you get on TikTok and tell the whole world, I'm looking for people who need to buy this house and this is what they're looking for. And they're looking at Sarasota.
Absolutely. And you know what? The simple script is, if you were offered the right price for your home, would you be willing to sell? You give that to, from notice of defaults to old expireds to your circle prospecting. And that gives them that, well, you know, maybe how much is my house worth? And, you know, so it's just having conversations.
Yeah. And I believe the people that are intentional around this, they're going to take more market share that they're not going to give up over the next 5, 10, 15 years. And I think it's, let's find out who those people are. What's the number? They all have one. And how do we become intentional about creating that, getting that into a centralized location to where we can actually market it?
Good. I love that. All right, let's wrap it up. Final thoughts.
You know, I mean, as I'm kind of looking at this, honestly, Scott, I see this as being the potential beginning of the end of the buyer's agent role as we currently know it. Because I think that in order to be effective and avoid buyer fatigue that leads to agent fatigue, we're going to have to be more aggressive. So we're going to have to, instead of being reactive in that role, have to start being proactive in every sense of the word. And you know, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity if we choose to look at it that way. And those that adopt it quickly, lights out. Super excited for them.
To your point there, John, I've been blessed with the opportunity to coach a different country. So I'm currently coaching in Portugal right now for their leadership team. They don't have an MLS. Right. Their buyer's agents are doing exactly what we're talking about, not because the market dictates that they have to for inventory, but they don't have an MLS. So if they want to find the right place, they're going to have to do things differently. Or here in Texas, you know, there aren't always ranches that are on the market and in the MLS. Sometimes it's done in a coffee shop and you overhear somebody saying, yeah, I got this ranch and I'm looking for a buyer. And it just so happens that Jim sitting at the coffee bar is the guy who is like, you know, I'd sell my ranch if the price was right.
Yep.
So it's taking a different perspective and approach to it. Christina, final thoughts from you?
It's being aware of your surroundings too, and not being closed off, and being open to the options. And, you know, I'd say my last thought is the things that are working now are things that we did 15 to 20 years ago before the websites and the buying the leads and the changes in the market. So get back to basics. You know, getting door to door, getting face to face, sending letters, and really just making sure your follow-ups on point is important.
Here's one final thing that I'll add to that. Zillow and Opendoor and companies that offer instant offer programs weren't banking on inventory being in such a high demand and being really, really short. So if anything, this gives you the biggest opportunity to reconnect with your database, reconnect with your people, and get them right where we need them, which is in consistent communication with us, and makes us the person that they think of when they hear the word real estate, as opposed to those other companies who are out to completely disrupt the industry.
We have millions of lives that need our help right now with what's going
Millions.
on in the world.
Sure.
And we just need to become the expert, and we need to understand how to let our people know what their options are.
Exactly. John, Christina, I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today to pour value into all of the people who are watching this. And next week, I've got Steve Schlueter joining me at the exact same time. And we're going to talk about how to maximize your database in a low inventory market and the conversations you should be having with your entire database. So I look forward to seeing you next week at 11 a.m. Central, which is 12 Eastern, 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific, and 6 a.m. in Hawaii. So y'all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to y'all soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Christina.
Bye-bye.